Hello students, here I am with the third part of the chapter Climate. Before moving on further, let's try to recall what all we have done in the first two sessions. We discussed the climate factors, the different regions, variation of climate. We also discussed the weather mechanism of the summer season and the winter season. So that means we have two seasons left now, advancing monsoon season and retreating monsoon season. Children, there is one phenomena which you are familiar with, monsoon. You have heard of it. You have heard of monsoons as the rain-bearing winds which you are waiting every year. But what is the nature of monsoon, especially the Indian monsoon? We'll be discussing that today. It is familiar but a very little known climatic phenomena. Lot of observations have taken place since centuries, but the scientists have not come to the conclusion about its causal effects and the other regions. Many attempts have been made to discover the exact nature and cause, but no respite we have got. A real breakthrough has come recently when it was studied at the global level rather than the regional level. When we say global level, children, you remember I told you we get winter rainfall from the Mediterranean Sea. The moisture is coming from the Caspian Sea, from the Persian Gulf, isn't it? That means if we study it at the global level, we'll be able to discuss it, understand it better. So, systematic studies of the causes of the rainfall in the South Asian region helps us in understanding the cause and the salient features of monsoon, particularly the important aspects like when is the onset of monsoons, do we get proper rainfall this year or it will be lighter, and what do we mean by break-in monsoons, and of course the two branches because we are surrounded by the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. So, what was the main cause I told you yesterday in the previous session? That the differential heating of the land and the sea during the summer months. You remember the northwestern part of India experienced temperature more than 45 degrees Celsius, isn't it? So, this mechanism which sets the stage for the monsoon winds to drift towards the subcontinent. During April and May, when the sun shines vertically over the Tropic of Cancer, the large landmass of the northern part of India, it gets intensely heated. So, there forms an immense low pressure trough where in the northwestern part of India. So, since the pressure in the Indian Ocean in the south of the landmass is high, so what was the theme of the winds, children? That they always blow from the high pressure to the low pressure. And what happens? The water gets heated slowly but the land gets heated fast. So, there comes the drift of the winds. These conditions help in the northward shift of the position of ITCZ, intertropical convergence zone, which is specially a low pressure zone where all the winds will converge. The southwest monsoon maybe specially is seen as a continuation of the southeast trade winds. Now, the subcontinent offers a special low pressure region. So, this shift is between 40 degrees east and 60 degrees east longitudes, not the latitudes, we are talking about the longitudes. Now, the shift in the position of the ITCZ is also related to this phenomena because you remember in the summer season that the westerly jet streams, they withdraw from India. And who takes the position? The easterly jet streams, isn't it? And that is between 15 degrees north latitudes. So, only after the westerly jet streams has withdrawn, the easterly jet stream comes and takes the place. And the easterly jet stream is responsible for the burst of the monsoons in India. So, now the entry of monsoon in India. How do we find it out? We find it out with three links. Extreme high temperature in the northwestern part leading to low pressure in the northwestern part. But the surrounding sea has high pressure, so the reversal of the same trade winds. The southwest monsoon sets in over Kerala coast by 1st of June Every year it starts by the first week of June and moves swiftly to reach Mumbai and Kolkata between 10th and 13th June, and by mid-July the southwest monsoon engulfs the entire Indian subcontinent. But here monsoons come under two branches. There seem to be two rain-bearing systems. When we talk about rain-bearing systems, the tropical cyclones are also undertaken under this. The first rain-bearing system is coming from Bay of Bengal and the other comes from the Arabian Sea branch. So, southwest monsoons, they have two branches, one from the Bay of Bengal and the other from the Arabian Sea. Now, when the branch of Arabian Sea strikes against the Western Ghats, much of the rainfall along the Western Ghats is orographic. Orographic means mountain rainfall or relief rainfall, and Western Ghats, due to their high altitude, they receive orographic rainfall. So, this moist air is obstructed and forced to rise along the Western Ghats. The intensity of rainfall over the western coast of India is related to two factors. Number one, the offshore meteorological condition. Offshore, that means away from the coast in the sea. By the position of the equatorial jet stream, this is the second reason. So, the frequency of the tropical depressions originating from the Bay of Bengal, it varies from year to year. Their path over the India are mainly determined by the position of ITCZ, which is generally termed as the monsoon trough, because this is the low pressure area which attracts the reversal of the trade winds. As the excess of the monsoon trough oscillates, increases, moves, there are fluctuations in the track and direction of these depressions. So, that means the monsoons are not regular and the amount of rainfall also varies from year to year. Now, rain which comes in spells, wet spells, dry spells, they display a declining trend from the west to the east, isn't it? And we are talking about the west and the east coast, and from the southeast towards the northwest over the northern India. That means southeast gets more rainfall, whereas the northwest gets less rainfall. Now, there are break in the monsoons. Children, when you are waiting for the monsoons, you seem to think that the rains have come and we will get rainfall every day. But again, you have so many wet spells and dry spells in between, and you are always waiting for them. These dry spells are quite common during the rainy season. That means we have wet spells, dry spells interspersed between one and another. These breaks in the different regions are due to different reasons. The northern India, the rains are likely to fail if the rain-bearing storms are not very frequent during monsoon trough, or the ITCZ is not very shifting, not very stable. Over the west coast, the dry spells are associated with the days when winds blow parallel to the coast. That means when they are parallel, we have dry spells. When the shift is there, they strike against the Western Ghats and give abundant rainfall. Now children, when we are talking about advancing monsoon season, they are the result of reversal of trade winds. Now try to understand the third season of India, which is known as advancing monsoon season, as it advances from south to north and from east to west. As a result of the rapid increase of temperature in May over the northwestern plains, the low pressure conditions they develop. This low pressure attracts the high pressure winds from the surrounding sea. Now by early June, they are so powerful that they attract the winds. They take a turn from the southwest, hence they are known as southwest monsoons. These southeast trade winds cross the equator and enter India by Bay of Bengal and by Arabian Sea, only to be caught by the mid-air circulation. So children, do not forget that we have weather system near the earth also and in the upper air atmosphere also. Now we are talking about southwest monsoons. Passing from the equatorial warm currents, they bring a well-needed moisture, lot of moisture in abundance. After crossing the equator, they follow a southwesterly direction. So they are southwest monsoons. The southwest monsoon seasons begins rather abruptly. One result of the first rain it is that it brings down the temperature suddenly down. So, the sudden onset of moisture laden winds with heavy rainfall, violent thunderstorms, lightning is also known as burst of monsoons or break of monsoons. So, the monsoons may burst in the first week of June in the coastal areas of Kerala, Karnataka, Goa and Maharashtra, while it keeps on moving advance towards the northern part and interior parts of the country. But they are delayed just because of the relief. The day temperature registers a decline of about 5 degrees to 8 degrees between mid-June and mid-July. So, always remember, when you study the advancing monsoon season, try to see the advancement, and if you go through the maps given in the book, you will see the direction is according to the relief. Each and every part of the country receives rainfall depending on these two branches and the direction of the winds. Now, let us talk about the two branches of the advancing monsoon season, namely the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. Now, when we talk about the Arabian Sea branch, which originates over the Arabian Sea, it also splits into two branches, especially in the southern part, and the third branch towards the northern India. One branch is obstructed by the Western Ghats, so the windward side of the Western Ghat receives heavy rainfall. These winds climb to the slope of the Western Ghats from 900 to 1200 meters. Soon they become cool, and as a result, the windward side gets abundant rainfall, isn't it? So, the western coastal plain receives heavy and torrential rainfall around 250 to 400 centimeters. Now, the winds they cross the Western Ghats and they descend down towards the leeward side. This reduces the humidity present in the wind. As a result, these winds cause less or little rainfall over the leeward side of the Western Ghats. So, this region with the low rainfall is also known as a rain shadow area. Alright, children, you must have studied about the relief rainfall, orographic rainfall in the fundamentals of Indian geography. Now, the second branch of the Arabian Sea monsoon strikes the coast north of Mumbai, moving along the Narmada and Tapi river valleys. These winds, they cause rainfall extensively in the central part of the country. The Chota Nagpur plateau gets 15 centimeter rainfall from this part of the branch. Therefore, now they enter the Ganga plain and mingle with the Bay of Bengal branch. So, children, from south to north, from east to west, the mingling of the branches takes place, and this becomes the third branch of this Arabian Sea. Now, this third branch strikes against the Saurashtra peninsula and the Kutch region. Then it passes over the western Rajasthan and along the Aravalis, causing only scanty rainfall. Aravalis are mostly parallel to these moisture laden winds, hence this region gets very less rainfall. In Punjab and Haryana, it again joins the Bay of Bengal branch. So, these two branches reinforced by each other, they cause rainfall in the Himalayan region, particularly the western part of the Himalayas. Now, we are talking about the second branch of the monsoons, that is the Bay of Bengal branch. Now, this branch strikes against the coast of Myanmar and parts of southeast Bangladesh. Children, in Myanmar we have Arakan hills. These winds, they strike against the Arakan hills and they shift their direction. So, these Arakan hills, they change the direction of the moisture laden winds. Now, the eastern part of the India gets more rainfall. The monsoons now enters West Bengal and Bangladesh from south and southeast direction instead of southwesterly direction. Now, there are again certain branches of Bay of Bengal. From here, that means from West Bengal and Bangladesh, it splits into two branches under the influence of Himalayas, and the thermal low which is existing in the northwest India till now, one branch moves westward along the Ganga plains, reaching as far as the Punjab plains. Now you see, the whole of the northern plain is covered. The other branch moves to the Brahmaputra valley in the north and the northeast, causing widespread rainfall, and its sub-branch, it also strikes the Garo and the Khasi hills. You remember Mawson Ram, which receives the highest rainfall in the world. So, Mawson Rim, which is located at the crest of Khasi hills, it receives the highest average rainfall. So, this season, when the whole of the country is receiving rainfall, just because of the relief, the coastal regions of Tamil Nadu, especially the Coromandel coast, becomes a rain shadow area. Why? Because there are two factors responsible for it. The Tamil Nadu coast, or we can say the whole of the Coromandel coast, is situated parallel to the Bay of Bengal branch of southwest monsoons. It lies in the rain shadow area of the Arabian Sea. That means the branch does not strike here, so this part usually remains dry. Do remember, we will be talking about this rain shadow area and the Coromandel coast in the retreating monsoon season. Alright. Now these monsoons, they have special features, special characteristics in India. The rainfall received from the southwest monsoon is seasonal in character. That means it is limited to 3 to 4 months in a year, which occurs from June till September, and we are considering the whole India because June, it gives rainfall to the southern part of India and it advances towards the north. Monsoonal rainfall is largely governed by the relief or the topography. For instance, I have given you the Western Ghats, the windward side receives more rainfall, whereas the leeward side receives very less rainfall. Again, very heavy rainfall in the northeastern states, which can be attributed to the hilly states, to the hilly regions located there. Now, this trend of decline in rainfall happens from east to west, from south to north. The monsoonal rainfall, it has a declining trend with increasing distance from the sea, because the sea and the oceans are giving moisture to these rain-bearing winds. Kolkata receives 119 centimeters during the southwest monsoons, Patna 105 centimeters, Allahabad 76 centimeters and Delhi only 56 centimeters. So, try to understand the declining trend direction wise. Now, when I told you about the break in monsoons, there are wet spells, there are dry spells. So, the monsoon rains, they occur in wet spells in few days and the duration of time is also not fixed. The wet spells are interspersed by the rainless intervals. So, they are also known as break-in monsoons. Now, children, I have used break-in monsoons twice. When the monsoons enter in India with torrential rainfall, that is also known as break-in monsoons. And these are breaks in monsoons. That means these are the dry spells between the wet spells. These breaks in rainfall are related to the cyclonic depressions which form in the head of the Bay of Bengal and they cross into the mainland. Besides the frequency, the intensity, this passage is also determined by the spatial distribution of rainfall. Now, when we say monsoons are not predictable, they are unevenly distributed. The spatial distribution is also uneven because it ranges from 12 centimeters to more than 250 centimeters. This is your work to find out the regions where we get rainfall more than 250 centimeters and where we get rainfall less than 50 centimeters. So, the beginning of the rains sometimes is considerably delayed over the whole or the part of the country, and again that depends on the movement of the easterly winds. The rainfall, it can be said, is earlier than usual, causing great damage to the standing crops, but if it is late, again the crops, they are damaged because of the less rainfall. Now, this monsoon and agriculture in India. India is an agrarian society. So, most of the farmers, they depend on monsoon for irrigation. The summer rainfall comes in a heavy downpour leading to considerable runoff and soil erosion. That means lot of rainfall leading to the topmost soil being washed away. monsoons play a pivotal role in the agrarian economy of India because over 3/4 of the total rainfall of the whole year is received by the southwest monsoons. Now, when the monsoons have come, they have to leave also. When they leave, this season is known as the season of retreating monsoons, the months of October and November. And children, you feel very hot, very oppressive during this season because the atmosphere has a lot of humidity present, moisture present, but the temperature they start increasing. So, by the end of September, the southwest monsoon becomes weaker. The low pressure trough becomes weaker over the Ganga plain. So, it starts moving southward in response to the southward movement of the sun. So, now comes the retreat of monsoons. The monsoons retreat from the western Rajasthan by the first week of September. It withdraws from the Rajasthan, Gujarat, western Ganga plains and the central highlands by the end of this month. That means by the end of September, the monsoons they start retreating back. By the beginning of October, the low pressure trough covers the northern part of Bay of Bengal. And by the early November, it moves over to Karnataka and Kerala. Now children, try to recall what I said about the Coromandel coast. By the middle of December, the center of low pressure is completely moved out from the peninsula. Now, this retreating monsoon season is marked by clear skies, no clouds and the temperatures they rise. The land being still moist owing to the conditions of very high temperature, very high humidity, the weather becomes very oppressive. This oppressive weather is also known as October heat. By the second half of the October, the mercury begins to fall rapidly, especially in the northern India. The weather in this retreating monsoon is dry in the northern India, but is associated with rainfall in the eastern part of the peninsula. So, October and November are the rainiest month of the year in the peninsular part of India. The widespread rain in this season is associated with the passage of cyclonic depressions which originate over the Andaman Sea, and they manage to cross the eastern coast of the southern peninsula and they bring torrential cyclones over the eastern coast. These tropical cyclones are very destructive. Try to recall, try to find out the names of these cyclones which hit the eastern coast every year. So, the eastern coast, particularly the deltas of Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, they are their targets. This area gets a torrential rainfall. So, every year cyclones bring disaster to this region. A few cyclonic storms also strike the coast of West Bengal, Bangladesh and Myanmar, but maybe they are not as destructive as the eastern coast. So, now this area, the Coromandel coast, receives rainfall, which was, you remember, a rain shadow area during the advancing monsoon season. So, bulk of rainfall in the Coromandel coast is received from these depressions and cyclones. So, children, when we are talking about the monsoon season, there are two types of monsoons. Advancing monsoons, retreating monsoons. Advancing monsoon is the summer monsoons where the whole of the country is receiving rainfall, whereas retreating monsoon is the season when the monsoons are leaving India, alright, and they give rainfall to the southern part of India. So, do not forget the direction of these winds and do not forget the regions receiving the rainfall. And of course, monsoons are a special phenomena for the Asia and particularly India. So, children, we will be discussing about the variation of rainfall in the next lecture. Thank you.